Ken Roczen has an offer. The last two riders, they're 16 years old, ever to turn pro, are happening this weekend. And a little bit better explanation on what's going on with Prado's bike and Sexton's bike. Welcome back to What We Learned on Friday. I'm your host, Michael Lindsay, here from Vital MX. It's the Friday before Unadilla. We're here at Unadilla. Press day is over. The WMX motos are over. Congratulations to Lachlan Turner on another win. Charlie Cannon had a really good race with her in the first moto, won the first moto, crashed in the second one trying to chase her, and then still got second overall, and Michaela Nielsen for the SLR Honda team ended up third. So again, what have we learned this Friday? Not a ton of items, but I think some really cool in-depth items. So let's start with Jorge Prado, our latest Prado update in terms of bikes. So of course, he came out a lot better weekend last weekend, and he attributed that to some bike changes they made literally in the morning of the race. And we were kind of curious of, okay, they wouldn't have brought a full new engine spec to the race, would they? What did they do? What did they do suspension? So we went over and talked to a couple members on the team to get a little more info. So yes, a bit of an engine update last weekend and a little bit of a suspension update. Starting with the engine, they wouldn't get into too much detail, but the biggest thing we discovered from it and what they feel like has made some of the biggest impact is it wasn't really a new spec in terms of some of the equipment in it. It's some parts they've tried before, but it's gear ratio wise. It sounds like Prado, we've talked about before, he definitely likes to point and shoot, gets the bike to a really low RPM in the corners, and then really big throttle openings. So to help keep those RPMs up, they've actually changed, it sounds like, the internal ratios in the transmission, because it also sounds like he likes to stay in third gear a lot. So whatever they've done with the transmission ratio, they basically sounds like they've brought in third and fourth gear in tighter, maybe a little bit closer to second, and tighten up those ratios to the point that the bike isn't dropping as low in the R's. It sounds like the way the engine now is, it's helping the bike carry more corner speed and it's picking up quicker coming out of the corners. That sounds to be the biggest change from the engine side. Suspension wise, we were told it's actually not, they've almost circled back a little bit to where they were earlier in the season, a slight tweak off that, but a lot of it is attributed to getting the engine where they wanted, and it's kind of brought the whole package around. So that is our basic understanding, is the biggest part of the engine update is just getting the bike to pick up quicker, mostly through some of those factory goodies of having transmission ratios and primary ratio options to play with. Also a little bit of a clear up. I saw a few people on social media this weekend on our forum bringing up a comment about him being on KYB last weekend. He was not. He's been on Showa, always been on Showa. A little bit of a mistweet from our friend Steve Mathis. He said something about KYB settings, basically off basis. It wasn't, and I know Steve had talked to the Kawa guys and figured out that wasn't quite right, but yeah, no KYB on the bike. Still Showa. Let's clear that part up. We'll get to another clearing up when we talk about Sexton's bike in a second. So cool note for this weekend, we have two riders going pro, Landon Gibson for the Rockstar Energy Husqvarna team, and we have Caden Dudney over here with the Yamaha Star Racing operation. Both these riders, I know for sure Landon is 16, I believe Dudney is 16. Them turning pro this weekend, unless someone else turns pro next weekend, would mark probably the last two riders we'll see for a while at 16-year-olds turning pro. The AMA has changed some of the rules. Next year, I don't know how exactly it works with event date, but basically riders next year turning pro will need to be 17, and then the year after will be 18, as they're trying to push riders to, develop more and not rush things. So again, we tried this rule in the past though, something similar, and it got abandoned after a year or two, so we'll see if that sticks, but at least for now, looks like Landon Gibson and Caden Dudney may hold that honor in our current rule cycle. Roczen news today. Actually spoke to the team a bit this morning, and it was kind of cool. Kenny came out publicly in our interview. If you check out our press day interviews, he talked to Lewis Phillips about this a little bit, but he has an offer, and what we mean by that is there was a rumor floating around this last week. I shouldn't say it isn't a rumor. We kind of confirmed with some sources that there was contact made by Kawasaki, just kind of inquiring like, hey, are you available? Do you have a contract? Maybe that ties into them waiting to see if Jorge was to try to get out or not. Either way, that part wasn't unfactual, because yes, Kenny actually isn't under contract with HEP for next year. We've all just kind of assumed so, and Kenny's kind of always perceived it as he was going to stay. He technically does not have a contract, and he finally got an offer this week from the HEP team. That was due to them tying up some sponsor stuff, tying up some stuff with Suzuki. He now has his HEP contract on the table to stay with that team. Does not sound like it's signed, came this week. One note we heard from him was interesting is, when he cycled to that team originally, he definitely was down quite a bit on pay from where he had been. It sounds like he's being rewarded for his loyalty and winning for them. It's a pay increase. That's part of having to get some of the sponsor stuff together. On top of that, it is a Supercross only contract. Doesn't sound like it includes any commitment to do WSX. Like, we're going to see him do 1 or 2 this year, but not part of the full rotation with the HEP team on WSX. No commitment to do outdoors. He can do a couple if he wants to, but they labeled it to us as a Supercross only contract with a nice little pay increase for Kenny. Actually, the note we were given was it's basically around or maybe more than double when he originally signed with HEP a few years back. On to our next explanation, the Red Bull KTM team. We were talking to somebody on the team earlier, and of course the Chase Sexton brake item came up, and I asked for a little bit more information on how they came up with it being a rear brake failure, because I know based on the statement they made this week, some people gave them props for being open and forward, and I've seen a lot of people basically call BS and not believe the explanation. So I asked for a little bit deeper explanation on how they came to that conclusion. Well, they said one example for them was, or they gave it through as 3 steps. One, the way they found it was a rear brake issue is basically when they looked into the rear brake, there was broken rocks embedded into the pads, and it wanted sheared into a piece of the rotor. So they were pumping in, the rear brake wasn't really working on the bike. The second one was, okay, the front brake issue, because a lot of people see it locked in the air, see Chase not be able to move it when he gets up and it's locked. They said 2 things. They went back and looked at footage and photos, zoomed in really carefully on his finger coming up the jump face. They said, based on the images they've been able to receive, that they confidently could show that his front finger was on the brake after takeoff, which leads them to, again, go back to that they thought that because of the rear brake issue, he wasn't slowing down enough, so maybe he overused the front brake and maybe drug it a little too long, but that's their explanation there. And then the last one about the front wheel being locked on the ground is they said when the bike was delivered back to the mechanics area for Jay Dungy, yes, when the bike went down on that side, they claim a bunch of mud got packed in there. Jay basically cleaned the mud out, they released the front brake, and he was able to ride it back to the semi as is. And when I say clear mud out of it, we're talking about the front brake lever area into the master cylinder. Again, don't kill the messenger. I'm just repeating what further explanation I was given by KTM. Believe what you want or believe not. That's not my job. Just to add in more info where I can. A couple little things. Time Master Pool is back this weekend with Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki team. We've mentioned multiple times this year. This kind of big deal. He's got 2 outdoor races and 3 SMX races to kind of show where he should be on, because originally his deal at PC was announced as a multi-year. We asked earlier this year when he had been gone for a long time, and they said that, it was technically next year's an option, and it does not sound like they're going to retain him. And some of that also comes back to, it was sort of him or Marchbank's last spot, and Marchbanks got his contract after Washougal at some point during the break. Marchbanks received his extension deal. So Garrett's staying, Ty's out. Where Ty will end up, I don't have a single person that's been able to answer. I don't know who the heck he's talking to at this point. Few other riders getting stuff done. Do you want to talk about? No. Shh, bye Lux Turner, happy man this week. Lux Turner has a new deal for next year. We'll leave that one off because he might strangle me. His teammate though, Avery Long, just signed his extension at AO KTM a few minutes ago actually, so congrats Avery. Club MX has a little bit going on, so we saw Jet Reynolds get injured last weekend. We know he doesn't have a deal for next year. Right now, for next year, they had Maximus Volan signed, Cody Schock's on for 2 more years, and they had a couple more spots they were looking at filling. Devin Simonson was going to be brought back as a Supercross only guy. It sounds like he's now been just given a full-time spot there next year. Probably, I guess I would kind of label his Reynolds spot, or maybe you call it Feder. Actually, better explanation would be Federstoff's spot, because Alexander Federstoff is no longer with the team. So Schock's good, Volan's good, and Simonson's good. Leaves them with, they say, 1 spot right now. They're going to run 4 full-time riders. That last spot is yet to be filled. They reached out to a rider or 2 this week, have not taken that deal, so Club MX still has 1 spot left to sign. That's it. That's what I learned this Friday at Unadilla. As always, thanks for watching. If you like our news updates, if you like our excellent press day footage from the man behind this camera, Sean Ogden, if you like Lewis Phillips's interviews, if you like listening to me ramble, hit a like, hit a subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.